Okay, so to get started on this folio, you want to go ahead and cut out these 5 panels. We've got A, B, C, D, and E. The 2 main panels are 10 inches by 8.5 inches. And what you want to make sure, when you have your 2 large panels, A and C, when you have those sitting in front of you with the 10 inches running up and down and the 8.5 running left and right, you want to make sure you're stronger, the chipboard, you want to make sure the strength is running from left to right. So see how flimsy it is this way, but here it's much stronger. Okay, so I put it in my cutter so that the strength is running from left to right, and I cut that at 8.5. So from here to here it's 8.5. It's flimsy this way, and that is 10 inches, okay? Because you're gonna be opening your folio like this, so you're gonna be constantly doing this. You want to have the strength right there. So I made sure of that for panels A and C. And then for panels B, D, and E, I had my strength running up and down, okay? So go ahead and pause the video if you need to and cut those pieces. Then what we're gonna do is we are going to cut from your base cardstock for both panels A and C and E. Let's see here. So for panels A, C, and E, you want to cut cardstock that is exactly 2 inches wider and 2 inches longer than these measurements. So for panels A and C, these 2 pieces of cardstock measure 12 by 10.5. And for panel E, this piece of cardstock measures 12 by 5. So basically you're gonna have 1 inch here, 1 inch here, 1 inch here, 1 inch here, same thing. 1 inch on all 4 sides. So the actual piece of cardstock is 2 inches wider and 2 inches taller. So that is for panels A, C, and E. And then for panels B and D, these are your spines. You want the, my husband is making me laugh. You want the length to, stop it. You want the length to be 12 inches. And you want, okay, so for panels B and D, you want the length to be 2 inches longer than the panels themselves. So basically, again, you have 1 inch here and 1 inch here. 1 inch here and 1 inch here, but you want your width to be exactly 3 inches longer in total. So this is 1 3/4, so my width here is 4 3/4. So we've got a piece that is 4 3/4 by 12, and we've got a piece that is 4 7/8 by 12. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and wrap all of these. And we are going to wrap panels A, C, and E first. They're all going to get wrapped exactly the same way. So A, C, and E. And I'll tell you that again. As we pull out each piece, I'll show you exactly what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to start with A. And of course, I'm sorry, I skipped this part. But you want to go ahead and put double-sided tape on the back of all of your panels. I don't do full coverage on my large panels because I want to put glue around the perimeter, okay? So I'll fill in with glue wherever I have space, because glue is my primary hold. Glue dries and it's a permanent hold, whereas score tape, even the Score Pal brand name tape, it doesn't hold till the end of time. It will eventually come up. And then for my spines, I do apply full coverage. Okay. And burnish that really well. So after you've applied your tape, I don't know where my burnisher is. I've already done it, but there it is. Yeah, after you've applied your double-sided tape, just burnish really, really well. Okay, so again, I do put full coverage on my two spines, and then this is not technically a spine, it's just my very end flap that's gonna close the folio. But I do apply full coverage on those. And for my large panels, I just put score tape in the center because I'm gonna run glue around the edge or wherever I have space. Okay, so for panels A and B, so we've got cardstock that measures 12 by 10.5, okay? So if you're using textured paper, I like the pretty texture or the really nice textured side to be showing. So if this is my really nice textured side, I'm gonna make sure that's face down, and I'm gonna adhere my panel to this. And I'm going to do that with my scoreboard, okay? I'm gonna place my 1-inch wrapping guides at the top and at the left. Okay, and then you're gonna take panel A, you're gonna remove the backing from the score tape, and you are going to fill in with your glue. Okay. And then you just want to make absolutely certain that your paper is pushed up into the corner, as well as your guides. All right, and then you're just going to stick this down, pushing that also up into that corner. Okay, so what that does is that basically ensures that you have adhered this baby down smack in the center of your cardstock, okay? Burnish very well. Okay, so now that you have that completely adhered down and you've burnished really well, okay, got any excess glue up, you want to turn it over, and you want to go ahead and take your bone folder, and you want to basically score the edge of the cardstock down against the edge of the chipboard. I'm using really nice sturdy linen paper, so I have never once had any problem with puncturing my paper, and I'm scoring pretty hard. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you have scored your cardstock down against your chipboard. If you can see that, there you go. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can turn it back over so that our chipboard is face up. And I'm gonna place my bone folder underneath the edge of this cardstock, and I'm basically going to train it to fold, okay? Like so. Which is basically doing this, except that I'm using this to kind of slowly get it there. Every time I make an up or down pass, my bone folder goes slightly more inward. Okay, and then you can burnish. Okay, so now you want to take your scissors, and my scissors are really dull. I need to figure out how to sharpen them. But you want to cut off your corners where the two score lines intersect. It made a square. You're going to cut those squares off, and you are going to cut directly up to the corner of the chipboard. See, I've cut just to the corner of the chipboard. I know my scissors are going further, but that's because I have to use I have to use the blade way inside because they're dull out here. Okay, so that's what I've done. Okay, so now we are going to go ahead and adhere our sides down. So to do that, actually no, sorry, not quite yet. First what you want to do is you want to miter all of your 8 edges, okay? So I'm gonna start very simply folding in one of my sides, okay, to get it out of the way. And then I'm just gonna butt my scissors up against the edge here without actually cutting into this folded side. I'm just gonna do this, okay? Turn it, fold this one in to get it out of the way. And miter. Okay, and then for the opposite ends, you're just gonna flip it so your chipboard is face down. Again, fold this under to get it out of the way. Just like that. Okay, so now you have all 8 of your edges mitered. Now to adhere these down, I'm gonna take, I think this is my 3/8 of an inch, but oh, here we go. I was gonna say somewhere I have 1/2 inch. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so let's burnish that really well. Okay, so let me see here. Yeah, I'm gonna do my sides first. I'm just trying to figure out when we eventually attach all of these 5 panels together. I don't want too much bulk with the cardstock, so we're gonna do our sides first. So to completely wrap this panel, all you're going to do is you're going to remove your 1 strip of double-sided score tape, which I have in the very center of this overhanging cardstock. If you can see that, I'm gonna remove the backing, and then I'm gonna take my tape, I'm gonna run it directly up against the edge of the chipboard, and then just fill in. Don't do so much glue that it covers your score tape, because that's not good. But you do want a good amount. Okay. So burnish that really well. And then once that's done, I'm just going to flatten the outer edge of my chipboard. Push that glue out, get it adhered really well. Okay. There we go. So now we can turn it around and do the other side. And when I use my cloth, I go into the chipboard, not out, because I want to make sure I'm training my paper to fold and not to unfold. And I do use cloth just because it helps to clean up that glue really well. Really well. Okay, so this is what a panel looks like completely wrapped. Okay, so you want to go ahead and do the exact same thing to panels C and D. So C, of course, is the other large one, okay? And panel D, wait, no, I'm sorry. You want to do the same things to panels C and E, okay? So C is the other large one, that's 10 by 8.5. The paper that you have to wrap it is 12 by 10.5, okay? And panel E is the 10 by 3, and the paper you have to wrap that is 12 by 5. Again, just 1 inch all the way around. So go ahead and rewind the video if you need to, and wrap those two in the exact same manner, in every way, shape, and form, okay? Okay, let's go ahead and wrap our remaining 2 panels, which are B and D, okay? So this is pretty identical to how we did the other 3, except we have more than 1 inch all the way around. We've got 1.5 inches to the right and to the left. So the width of these, compared to the panel, are larger than the others. So take your cardstock for B, put it on your scoreboard, and you're going to use 1.5 inch wrapping guide on the left, and you're still going to use a 1 inch on the top. Make sure that's all pushed up into the corner. Then you can go ahead and remove your backing from panel B and adhere that down. Okay. Burnish that really well. And then we can go ahead and with our chipboard face down, we can score the edges of the cardstock into the edges. I'm sorry, we can score the cardstock into the edges of the chipboard beneath. And this time okay, let's go ahead and fold down against our chipboard. Burnish that real well. Okay, now for the B and the D panel, we're not going to cut the corners, the squares off. So get out your score tape, and we're going to run, I'm using, I think this is actually 3/8 of an inch. And I'm going to run a line of double-sided tape across the center of this flap, okay, because I still want to allow for glue, which is my primary adhesive. That's the one that's really going to give us the hold. So burnish that tape down real well. We're only doing that to the top and the bottom, the shorter ends. Okay, and then one at a time, you can go ahead and remove that backing. Okay, so now you want to run your glue against the edge of the chipboard, okay? And just fill in wherever you don't have tape, which is really just on either side of the tape, okay? I put a little bit too much glue there, but that's okay. Fold that sucker down. And burnish that really well. Okay, and that's basically it for, oh, actually that's not true. We have to miter. Okay, so to miter these, we're gonna miter the tops of the shorter ends, okay? So what we wanna do is we basically wanna start at the very edge, or corner, I should say, the corner of that chipboard, okay? Don't actually cut into this folded end, but start right there and just do a slight miter. Okay, just like that. Okay, so that is what it's gonna look like. I did not cut into that folded edge. I went just past it. Okay, so that is what it looks like. All right, so you are going to do the same exact thing to your remaining panel, which is panel D, okay? So rewind the video if you need to, and repeat those steps until panel D looks exactly like panel B. Okay, so now we have all of our panels wrapped. Panel A, C, and E are wrapped completely. And panels B and D have these 1.5 inch wings on the ends, okay? So go ahead and make sure that for panels B and D, that you turn them over so the chipboard is face down and just give them another good score against the edge, okay? If you haven't already done that. And what we're going to do, you want to turn all of your panels over so that the chipboard is face down. And you can see now how that's going to work. So basically, it's going to work because panels B and D are the spines with which we will attach panels A, C, and E, okay? So it's going to look like this, basically when we're done, okay? So let's go ahead and remove C, D, and E out of our way. And then we have panels A and B, okay? So we want to take panel B, and we basically want to apply glue all over this wing on the left-hand side. And simply because I am right-handed, I'm just gonna flip it. And it doesn't matter which wing, either of the wings, it doesn't matter at all. But I'm gonna position it so it's closest to me, okay? And then I'm going to apply glue all over the entire wing, but I'm not going to go directly up against the chipboard. Because if I do that, then it's going to seep out in between pieces A and B, and it might tear our paper when we're opening and closing the folio. So be real generous with your glue, but just be careful not to go too close to the edge. Okay, I just lost power for a second. All right, so that is what it looks like. Oops. And now we can take panel A, place it down on panel B on the wing, and just butt it right up against it, okay? You do want it butted up right into each other, okay? Turn that over, give that a good burnish real quick, and then just make sure that you don't have too much glue in there. This is my preferred method. As soon as I have that stuck down, I open it right away. And I let it dry in this position, okay? Because if we did get glue seeping out of there, which I did a little bit, my paper's not black, so it's much harder to see, thankfully. Then we're good, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry for about 10 minutes. So this process is gonna take probably an hour, but it's worth it. If we do it right now, it's worth it in the long run. Okay, so let's go ahead and take these off. Okay, so there we go, panel A and B. Okay, and you can see how beautiful, I think you can see how beautiful that is. Okay, how crisp and clean. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing. There's panel B. So here's panel B. We're gonna do the same thing to the other wing. Okay, so there you have what that one looks like. So then we have panel C, which we're going to turn over. And again, we are just gonna butt that right up against this chipboard piece, okay? Give that a quick burnish. And then go ahead and open it up, okay? And then give it a good burnish in that position. Okay. Okay, and just give that 10 minutes and we'll come back and we'll finish with the next, we'll continue with the next one. Okay, so let's, let's take these off. Okay, so here we have panel A, B, and C. Okay. So look at that. Okay. So let's turn that back over, okay? And then we can get out D panel, all right? We're gonna turn that over as well. And just as we did before, we're going to apply glue to this, to either of the wings, it does not matter. Okay, so there we have that, okay? And now we are going to put that down. All right. And we are going to take this one, we are going to lift it up, line it up with the edge, and then take it down. What we don't want to do is slide it into the edge of that chipboard, because then we're going to slide our glue And we'll slide our glue into the crevice there. Okay, so now that we've given that a good burnish, let's open that up. I know I'm putting a lot of pressure on this, but my paper can handle it. Okay. And then again. Okay, so here we have A, B, C, D attached. So we're going to turn that over, and we have one last panel to attach to E. Okay, so same as before. All right, so we'll let that sit now, okay, for about 10 minutes. Okay, so we are done. I think we're done with this one. All right, so this is what we have, okay? So this is what it looks like. All right, so how it's going to work is this is exactly what it's going to look like, okay? All right, so this is going to be the front cover. This flap is kind of our closure flap, okay? And then we open it up and we're gonna have a main panel here and a main panel here. Okay, so what we wanna do now is we wanna cover all this chipboard, okay? And it's gonna require 2 pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock to do that. You want to take your 2 pieces and cut them down to the exact height of our book, which should be exactly 10 inches. And since we wrapped our cardstock, or I'm sorry, since we wrapped our chipboard, it might have added like, yeah, it didn't. Mine are exactly 10 inches. Depending on what kind of paper you use, sometimes it adds like a 1/16 of an inch. But, so I'm gonna cut 2 pieces of cardstock. They both need to be 10 inches tall, okay? We need 2 pieces then. Both of them are gonna be 10 inches tall. So the first one can be 10 by, it can be 10 by 12. Maybe I will make mine 10 by 11, because if I cut the first one 10 by 12, there's the 12 inch. I don't want it to sit on top of this cardstock because that's just going to add too much bulk. So instead I'll cut my first piece 10 by 11 so it ends there. Yeah, so we are going to have to cut 3 pieces, it looks like. No, we can do 2. So we could do 2 12 by 10s because this is just about exactly 24 inches long. But the problem is that they're gonna meet right here at the edge of this, and I don't want that. Yeah, I really don't want that. So let me think how I want to do this. Okay, so I'm going to use 3 pieces of cardstock, and I'm going to have, I'm going to make sure that my cardstock pieces meet somewhere in the center of C panel and A panel. It doesn't matter which way you have this situated, by the way. Don't let that confuse you. It doesn't matter at this point. So I'll probably start over here. So the measurement does not matter. Just make sure that your piece of cardstock ends somewhere in here. You don't want it too close to this piece of cardstock, and you don't want it too close to this piece of cardstock. So I'm just gonna say mine is of course gonna be 10 inches tall, and I'm gonna cut this to about 10 inches. So 10 by 10. And actually the second piece, so if the first one is gonna be 10 by 10, the second one will be 10 by 10, perfect. So I'm gonna do 2 10 by 10, so then they'll meet here, and the second one will end here, and I will cut my third one after the first 2 are adhered, because we wanna make sure those first 2 are down and secure, and then measure the remaining space that's left. Okay, so with our 10 by 10s, we do want to apply full coverage score tape. Beautiful. Okay, so I don't have sheets of score tape, but I have these giant 2.5 inch rolls. So that will be what I'm using. And I'm not pulling my tape. Anytime I place score tape down, I never pull my tape, because that could warp the paper. So I let my tape go loose, and I run my finger along it, and that's what sticks it down. Because if you pull the score tape, it could warp the paper. It could pull the paper with it. Okay, so you could use your scoreboard to get that excess tape off, but I found that using a really sharp blade, it just naturally runs along with the edge of your paper. But if you're worried about cutting into your paper, then don't use it. You could use your scoreboard, like I said, or not your scoreboard, your cutter, your cutting machine, whatever you have, your paper cutter. Okay. Get our book back out. Okay, I'm just gonna dry fit this first piece. Make sure it's not like sticking over the edge of my book, because that will drive me crazy. I'll feel it. But it is perfect. So all I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna remove the tape, the backing I should say, and I'm gonna stick it down, okay? Okay, I'm gonna try to stay in frame, but I don't want my head in the camera. Ooh. Okay. All right, perfect. I stuck the paper to the edge of my book, and it just made a little itty bitty, it just tore off just a tiny outer layer of fiber from the paper, but not a big deal. Okay, so burnish this really well, okay? If you have one of those rollers, that would be great. Something with a lot of the ability to cover a lot of surface at one time. A lot of times I'll do this. Because I know I've got a lot of strength in my arm. What is it, Pipers? Perfect. I've got a tiny, it's like sticking over here. I don't know how I did that. Such a small amount. I mean, such a small amount, it's barely imperceptible. I just don't want to feel it. Okay, so then we can take our next one. And dry fit it. Make sure it's going to work. This is the point where if you want to, or you feel like you need to, you should trim the paper. I'm gonna take like a 1/16, like just the tiniest smidge off of one of my edges. Okay, perfect. And if you have tape hanging over, once you get the backing off, you can just do this. Use your finger to tuck that tape back onto the side of the paper where it belongs. Okay, let's see here. I'm probably going to come out of frame here just for a second, but I am just lining this up as perfectly as I can. Beautiful. Wow. That one is absolutely perfect. Okay, burnish, burnish, burnish really well. Okay, so then we can go ahead and measure our remaining space and see how wide we need this piece to be. And mine needs to be 3 13/16. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's burnish that tape down real well. Bring our book back out and just go ahead and place that down, okay? I think I'm gonna cut a smidge off the bottom again. Okay, good. It's nice and burnished, and that's what we have now. So we want to go ahead the last step before we can actually start putting in our elements is we want to fold our books again so that they fold where the panels join. You want to be super careful during this step because you don't want to press so hard with your bone folder that you rip your paper, because if you rip your paper at this point, I'm not sure what we would do. So just gently fold it with your hands and score the crease there. I am being really gentle. So first, when I do it, I kind of do it into this piece, like so, and then I'll kind of do it into this piece. Okay. And just give it a minute to kind of do what it wants to do naturally. There we go. Okay. Okay, and there we have it. So still at this point, you really could, you could design your book so that your closure flap is on the left or so that it is on the right. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna make mine on the right. So this is what my book will look like. But there we go. We are ready to start adding all of our pieces to the two main panels and turn it into a working folio.